Welcome everybody to Afterthoughts After Dark. This episode
after dark.
Way after dark. This episode has overcome so much to come to you, listeners. You be grateful. We we have been through a lot tonight to bring to you this fantastic podcast. We hope.
We know you were looking forward to it, so we did everything in our power to make sure it happened.
Oh, yes. So welcome to Afterthoughts, a podcast where we talk about our first and second impressions of movies, along with a related topic. I'm here with I'm Joshua Kazemi. That's who I am. And I'm here with my co-host, Coleman Taylor, who is in Tennessee.
I am in Tennessee. What? I know.
And I'm in Texas. I'm always in Texas when we do this podcast. Usually you're in Texas too.
Usually I'm in Texas too, but I am in Memphis right now. It's wonderful.
And that's where we are tonight. That's the reason that this is happening the way that it's happening.
Along with
we're here now.
Computer updates. So.
But it's going to be a good one, guys. We're talking about Gone Girl this week.
So gone.
David Fincher's classic 2014 movie.
So classic.
Oh, classic.
Timeless, even.
Correlate with Ben Affleck's new movie, The Accountant, which opens this weekend. So There you go. So we watched this movie together.
Oh, yeah, we did.
We did. And I think we had to wait a little while because you just had to finish the book before we went to go see it.
Yeah. I remember I finished the book as we were driving to the theater.
That's right. That's amazing.
That's
crazy. So good.
I know.
Had you heard that it was a good book before you read it, or was it like the movie's coming out, I want to read the book first?
Yeah, I knew the movie was coming out and I saw the book at Target, so I was like, I'm gonna read that. Picked it up, read it. I remember I don't know if I said it out loud. I might not have, because I didn't want to affect y'all's opinion of the movie, but I remember I finished the book in the car and I was like, wow, I hate that, and now I'm going to watch it.
That's amazing. Thank you for your self-control. That's so good. Yeah. So if you were by yourself in that moment and you finished the book and you were going to go see the movie, would you have changed your mind? Would you have still gone and saw the movie?
Oh, yeah, I for sure would have still gone and saw the movie. I would have just been like, wow, that's it? That's what happens? Great. And then walked into the movie.
Oh, man. So let's go right into that. We saw the movie in 2014. What was your first impression?
That it was a good movie. It was well done. And I wrote down here, I loved hating it is the best way I can describe it.
Oh, fascinating.
The story...
Like the Kardashians.
Yes, exactly like the Kardashians. No, I am... No, I guess that's pretty accurate. So I was going to say I hate hating them, but no, I'm just kidding. I don't know anything about the Kardashians. So, but anyways, that's legit. So I hate the story. I hate what happens in the movie. I kind of think you're supposed to hate what happens, but it was still a great and well done movie. And I enjoyed that it made me hate it, that it brought out those emotions. What did you think?
That's really interesting. I love David Fincher. I should start with that. He's one of my favorite directors. The Social Network is one of my favorite movies ever. And listeners will know that if they listen to our exclusive YouTube miniature episode. You can check that out in the description. But I love David Fincher. I really love his distinct style. I love the way that he makes his films look and feel. And I really like the way that he could get these really interesting, cold and calculated performances out of people. Like they're these dark character-driven movies, and they're so dependent upon really nuanced performances, and he gets them out of every actor he works with. And I love David Fincher. So in this movie, I loved all the David Fincherisms. Like I enjoy that it's a David Fincher world. And so it's the same kind of thing. I really enjoy the movie, but it's it's this really dark and heavy movie, and I don't necessarily love what happens in the movie. It's such a dark movie, and unlike The Social Network, which is also, I would say, a dark sort of story. There's at least sort of a positive takeaway, and in this, it doesn't feel like there is, or at least in the first impression, I was just kind of like, whoa, this movie is crazy. It just leaves you with like you said, it's like, that's it, that's what happens, and it's kind of nuts.
Yeah. Another thing I wrote down is that I was just engrossed in it the whole time. It captured my attention really well. The book did that too, I guess, so it might just be because of the source material, but I still also think that it was like how Fincher presented it as well.
Yeah.
Definitely hit all
I think he's like a master of pace, I think. I love the pacing of his movies.
Yes.
They're consistently so good. But yeah, the source material, it's got to be part of that too.
Mm-hmm. But yes, I do think he hit the beats very well.
Mm-hmm.
And
so I saw this movie like in a bargain bin like a year later and just decided to buy it. And so I watched it again. I watched it with commentary. And so this was actually like the third or fourth time that I've seen the movie. But in the year or so between my viewings and up until I saw it again this week, I've always sort of tossed the movie back and forth in my mind, like wondering, did it need to be as intense? Does the story really call for it to be that exaggerated and that intense? And not even to setting aside how explicit the movie is, how graphic it is. I'm talking about like the characters and the plot. Like, does it need to be as extreme as it is? And I think I've tossed my back and forth. You can let me know what you think, but I think it needs to be. And I kind of don't like that it needs to be. But I think everything that's interesting about this movie comes from how extreme and exaggerated the plot is.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a bummer.
Yeah. One of the... So I don't want to... Because I know this is more of comparing our first and second impressions. That's the whole point of the podcast. But one of the things, comparing it to the book, was that... you get even more of that in the book, especially with the characters, because you're in their heads the whole time. Specifically, Nick, you figure like he is so much worse in the book, and just his thoughts and what he thinks of his wife, both before and after the twists and everything. It was just so interesting seeing his thoughts and how awful of a person he really is. While in the movie, he's still pretty awful because they're both awful people, but you don't like get his specific thoughts on his wife. And so I thought that was interesting. And yes, even in the movie, I agree. Just how intense all of it is. It's just really heavy. That's how I would describe this movie.
Yeah. Very heavy. It's like for one of my favorite directors, it's a movie that I'm not ever super eager to go back to. Mm-hmm. It's not one that I'm like excited to see again because it is so heavy. Oh, but that's interesting that you brought up Nick's character, because I still think in my first impression of the movie that he's kind of terrible. He does terrible things as well. They may not be as extreme or as bad as his wife. What's her name? Amy. Mm-hmm. But I would argue that by the end of the movie, he is still the sympathetic character.
Oh, for sure.
Is that the case for the novel?
Yes. After the twist happens, he's totally the sympathetic character. But even still, just in his, like, he calls his wife the B word so many times in the book, just in his head, like, over and over and over, and just all kinds of things like that. And it's just crazy.
Yeah. The twist is another good point I forgot to mention. I remember being excited about the movie long before the trailer ever came out, because it was just, it was another Fincher movie. And then the trailer comes out, and hopefully you remember me saying this, but I remember like thinking, oh, that's what that there's going to be a twist, and the twist is she is trying to frame him. So I saw it coming just from the trailer, but I really loved that it's not a twist ending. It's like it's more of a turning point in the movie. And it sort of shifts. And I really appreciated that. So even though I saw it coming, it was like, it still raised really interesting questions and took the plot in this fun new direction that I didn't see coming, What did you had a reaction?
Because you stole my point. I just really liked that the twist was in the middle of the movie. It wasn't the ending point.
Right.
It was right in the middle. Everything changes from that point, but you still have so much movie left even after the twist. Yeah. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. Yep. I loved it. It's such I mean, even if you don't, it's like a preference thing, definitely. I don't like the movie, but it's so well made. It's so well put together. And it's on that level, it is really enjoyable to watch. Like he just knows how to make movies, man.
I agree.
Fincher's so good. Okay. So let's talk about your first time around. How did you feel about how graphic the movie gets?
Oh, it was just so graphic. Specifically, the ending scene where he dies. Yeah. I mean, so having read the book, I didn't necessarily expect that because in the book, the same thing happens, but he's at least asleep. It's like, it's still awful that she does it, but it's more merciful. Like, I mean, you don't. So it's a little different because this is a movie, so you see it happen on camera because it would have been kind of dissatisfying to the audience to not do it on camera, I would think. But in the book, it doesn't happen in writing. You only hear it from her perspective, both telling the cops and then telling Nick, or like Nick guessing, okay. I think. I can't remember. It's been a long time. But I remember her specifically saying how she made him fall asleep. She knocked him out. And so he was asleep when she did it. Not like it happens in the movie, which is so intense. Oh my goodness.
It is so intense. And for me seeing it this week for the fourth time, I am not desensitized to it. Every time I see that scene, it makes my skin, it's terrible. And that's the kind of thing that it's like, I wish that the film didn't need to be this graphic, but because it is, it makes Amy feel that much more real. Like, and that much more dangerous. Mm-hmm. It really does heighten everything else in the movie because they're willing to take it that far. So it's just kind of, I don't know, it's this like necessary evil almost. And you just have to sit through it and take it. And it's just, it's a lot.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I would ultimately say necessary.
Yeah. I would say necessary just for the exaggeration she was...
Yeah, for the sake of
trying to make.
How exaggerated everything in the movie is.
Yes.
Yeah. For sure.
Mm-hmm. And one thing that I noticed, though, even in the first impression, that just kind of annoyed me is I think there were holes in her story, in Amy's story upon coming back. I get that to finish out the story she wanted to tell, the author / Fincher wanted to tell, had to do with the fact that she needed to get away with it. But just thinking about it, if they had dug even slightly deeper, I think it would have been obvious of what she did. And so that's always kind of annoyed me. But other than that...
Yeah, definitely. I don't think that annoyed me so much the first time around because there was just so much else that my mind was wrapped around after that first viewing. But it did definitely this time around. I thought about that for sure. Mm-hmm. And I agree with you.
I guess it bugged me even the first time just because I had already read the book. And then upon seeing it was technically my second time knowing the story. And I was like, I really don't think she could have gotten away with it like she did.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much my first impression.
Shall we move on to second?
Let's do it.
All right. What did you think your second time around?
Not much changed for me. I pretty much still thought it was a really well done, well crafted movie. Still hated it. Hated everything that happened. I forgot how just raunchy and how much stuff happens in the movie. I obviously remembered the end where he gets killed and there's blood everywhere, but I only remembered that part. I forgot everything else that happens in between. I don't know why, because I've read it and I've seen it, but I just forgot everything that happens in the movie. I remembered all the plot points, but I forgot how vulgar it was. I don't know why.
Yeah, I think... Yeah, well, maybe because I think the vulgarity isn't it's not central to the plot, you know. They're sort of, it sprinkles and they sort of add to the texture of the movie, but they're not really central parts. Like Andy, I mean, you could have easily have portrayed his relationship with Andy without being as explicit as it does in the movie, but because they do get explicit, it just adds to it. And so I guess you could walk away from it not remembering it because it's not crucial how explicit it gets, I guess, in those terms. But I agree. Like, I don't think in my second viewing, fourth or whatever, I don't think the movie doesn't like fall apart for me. But I am like confident more and more as I watch it, like that it's just a preference thing. I don't love the movie or the story or the characters, but it's so well done that I still enjoy it on that level. So yeah, this time around just sort of solidified that for me. I can confidently say that. I don't love this movie, but it's a good one.
Yeah. And I'm not joking.
I mean, there were tiny things.
It's not even just that I don't love it. It's that I hate it. I hate this movie. I hate the characters. There's nothing I enjoy about them. And the fact that I can still say, but it was a well done movie and that you captured my attention is really impressive because I hate everything about it. Good job.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I mean, yeah, this was the first time I watched it as a married man. and it is on that level, it was harder to watch. And it is like, I understand like the sort of anger and frustration that you feel for the plot and the characters because it's really rough. It's really intense and really heavy. And like, I don't know. I think it's not a movie for everyone.
No.
Obvious statement, but yeah, more and more as you watch it, it becomes evident. Like I could easily see so many people being turned off by how heavy it is and how rough it is to almost experience exactly what happens. Like it's such a good movie that you feel like you're in it with those characters, and to go through what they go through is torture almost.
Yeah,
because it's just such a good movie. It takes you to that place.
I did notice how much I thought some of the acting was kind of poor that I didn't notice my first time.
Okay, which parts?
I think his sister didn't do that well.
Okay.
There are also just points that just how it happened kind of didn't feel as realistic. I can't really explain that. Kind of like the scene where the lady takes the picture but then gets mad at it. He's like instantly, "Oh, could you actually take that?" Like some of it kind of felt forced. I don't know if that was necessarily the acting, but some of it just felt weird. Like they were just trying to throw it in to add certain elements of his character and plot in, but it didn't really feel natural. Just little things.
I agree that I feel like there were some things that were sprinkled in for the sake of like giving more texture to Nick's character, and I definitely had questions about it because I do feel like they were kind of just tacked on. But in terms of the acting, I feel like the first time around I did feel like I should have said it, but I didn't. Like some of the acting was questionable, but then you watch it again and you realize that they're exaggerated like that's mainly where I'm talking about. It's like all those fantasies of from the journal and how they supposedly first met, and how Amy's crafting this story of who Nick is and how their marriage deteriorated. Like all of those scenes I think are really over the top, but they're intentionally that way. Mm-hmm. And it's way more enjoyable the more you watch it to realize that this is a story she's crafting. The first time around you don't necessarily know that until the twist happens, and it is a little off-putting. But a lot of this I feel like is intentionally off-putting. Like I think that scene you were referring to in the hallway with the picture is like intentionally sort of weird and forced and off-putting because you want to sympathize with Nick, and it's like, oh no, that's going to make him look terrible, but you're not really sure what his motives are. It's this whole, it's very strategic, I think, on David's part to make you feel uncomfortable and to make you question everybody's motives. So, yeah, there you go.
That might be true, but I don't know. Some of the acting just didn't stand out, or it stood out to me as not as good as the first time I saw it. Specifically his sister, and maybe Amy too, even after. Just after the twist happens as well, and you figure out who she really is. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm comparing her to the book too much, because the Amy I pictured is a lot different. So that might just be my own biased opinion, but for some reason, and it's not that bad either. It's obviously, they're all great. Everyone, I think, was well casted, but it's just like little bits here and there.
That's fair. I mean, for somebody who read the book, I think that's fair for the way that you have pictured her from the way that she was described. Mm-hmm. You know, I think that's part of the translation for sure. So it's valid.
Yeah.
How did you feel about like his dad? I feel like that's one of the things I mentioned. I feel like that's tacked on to just add texture to his character. Was there more of his dad stuff in the book?
It was more of him. He thought about his dad more, kind of like what I mentioned in the first impression. You get into his mind more. So for example, when he starts thinking of his wife in awful ways, he compares himself to his dad, who was awful to his mom, and just little things like that. So yeah, there's more in the book, but you don't really see his dad more in the book. He just kind of thinks about his mom and dad more in the book.
That makes sense. Because the way that he's only got one scene in the movie. I mean, they go to his house a lot. They reference him a lot. But the one scene that he's in, I feel it just is, in this viewing, felt so convenient. Mm-hmm. You know, like the fact that he finds him there the same day that he's being questioned, or he's there because Amy goes missing, and he walks across the hall and there's his dad and they've been looking for him all day, you know?
Yeah.
Like that just is really convenient and a really easy way to, like, I don't know, to present that fact. It felt like exposition, blatant exposition, and it just was like, And then I wondered what the point of him actually being there is. I think you could have edited that scene out and it still plays the same.
Yeah.
But I don't know, maybe not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In the book, it's just because you can start comparing him to his dad, or really he compares himself to his dad, because his dad is kind of degrading mentally, I suppose. And so he just kind of doesn't have a filter and just says curse words that come out of his mouth, straight out of his mind. And so when Nick starts just constantly thinking those about his wife, he, like I said, compares himself to his dad. So I think that was really the point in the book. And there's really not much more. Again, in the book, that's the only scene he's in as well. So I just think that's too hard to translate into movie form. Because it's just in his thoughts in the book. So I don't know how you would possibly move that over, convert it.
Yeah. Totally random. Why does the old boyfriend, not Neil Patrick Harris, but the other guy, why does he carry on a picture of himself with Amy in his wallet?
I said the same thing while I was watching it. So I watched it with my dad. I go, oh, does he just carry that around? Is he that angry about it? But then the only thing that I thought was like, well, if he knows he's meeting up with Nick, he might have brought it. But maybe. That's a big stretch.
Then he still kept it.
Yeah.
He was still holding onto it somewhere in his apartment. Yeah. The girl that ruined his life.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's why he kept it. Although I'm not going to defend him. I thought it was stupid too. I don't know why he carries around a picture of the girl who ruined his life in his wallet.
Mm-hmm. Okay, second question. Just for clarity, because I think I know, but I'm not quite sure. Why does she decide not to kill herself? Is it because he's not getting convicted as fast as she thought he would?
I don't think she would ever kill herself. I think it's all part of her character. I think she was planning about it because she's meticulous and put it in her plans, but she's also very selfish and completely about herself. I think it was completely a character thing, and she just decided she didn't deserve to die because Nick treated her poorly. But I think in my opinion, as her character, I think even though she planned out to kill herself, she was never really going to kill herself. But that's just my opinion. But as far as explanation wise, I think it's just she decided not to. She changed her mind.
Huh. Okay.
And I think she wanted him to get convicted as well. I think that played a part, but I think a lot of it was just her not wanting to anymore.
Okay. Well, let me ask you about her plot in general. Like, it's a pretty elaborate plan, and I feel like a lot of it hinges upon her knowing how Nick was going to react or respond, or like where he was going to be when he was going to be there, you know? Does it, I mean, I don't know. How did you feel about her overall plot? Did it feel real, or I don't know.
Oh,
good?
No, it did not. I don't think this plan could work out in real life at all, but
no.
But that goes along with the exaggerations of the movie, and it also goes along with just how kind of the point of her coming back was because Nick knew what to say to her. He knows her so well, and I think that's kind of supposed to be what is presented by the fact when she knows how Nick will behave. It's kind of the same thing. She's like, oh, I paid so much attention to him, but he didn't pay attention to me at all, so I'm going to use me paying attention to him against him, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But
and I like the countless things in the movie that point towards the idea that these two know each other really well, and she has crafted this plan based on how well she knows her husband. But it's like at a certain point, she needed to know how her husband would react in this very unique circumstance. Like, how would Nick react if he thought that I was dead or gone or framed him? Like, how on earth would she know how he was going to react under these very unique circumstances? Those were the kind of things this time around that I was like, that's convenient or really elaborate. And I just makes me question it. I don't know.
I mean, all of it's elaborate. Like I said, I think there were holes in her plan in the first place. So
yeah,
I don't think it could have.
I also don't buy that the detective had, like, why did they give up at the end of the movie? Why does Tyler Perry leave? Why does the detective give up? They give, like, I think paper thin excuses because the movie is over. But I would want them to press forward and keep trying.
Yeah.
I don't know. That this time around I was like, that's not cool. Keep going.
Well, I think
this woman is crazy.
I mean, Tyler's is pretty thin, but I think he left just because the case really was over. Nick wasn't facing charges anymore because obviously he was proven innocent. But the detective so I think the FBI took it over, so she literally couldn't investigate it anymore. And they were already upset. They were like, that's enough because Amy pulled if you had kept it, my husband would be in jail card, even though if you look, I think even just just a smidgen closer, you would know that it was all a lie.
Yeah,
I mean, does she even know where Neil Patrick Harris was the entire time that she was kidnapped for the majority of it?
And wouldn't there be footage from the cabin of her, like, entering it for the first time willingly?
There would.
And there's cameras everywhere, right? So isn't there footage of them, like, hanging out on the couch and watching TV and being normal?
If not, like, that was very convenient camera placement for her.
Yeah. I still think it's a great movie, though. Like, these are all little things. I think because the characters are so well rounded and like they're so well characterized that these things bothered me, but not to the point where I think it really hurts the movie.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
other than the fact
it's
that
it's a balance.
Still hate it.
Sure. Love to hate it.
Yep.
So can I ask you about the ending? Do you think that it's like, I don't know, do you think it's like poetic justice that these two are trapped together?
Yeah, I guess.
Or is it just more of like this movie's take on marriage, the exaggerated portrayal of marriage?
I think it's a bit of both.
Okay.
Bit of both.
Bit of both.
I don't know. So one of the things, so they had to present it differently because one's a movie and one's a book. But in both the book and the movie, he was kind of trying to out his wife. In the book, I think he's writing a book, and then in the movie, they're going to go on live television.
Oh, yeah.
And then her leverage, though, is that they're gonna have a child, and that's like all he's ever wanted. And she's like, but he'll hate you if you like out me or whatever. But I feel like he could still just bring that up. I mean, I guess it's risky, but I feel like he could, if he's gonna talk about how awful his wife is, then he can obviously be like, oh, also, this is her leverage against me. She's using my child against me as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one thing. Another thing.
Yeah.
And Nick kind of gets the last laugh in the book, too. I mean, I guess they kind of both do, because he ends up not going through with the book, so she, like, beats him in that way, but then he has this just, like, extremely snide remark at her that ends the book, and it, like, totally messes with her head, and I really enjoyed that, and I kind of wish that was in the movie, but it's whatever.
Yeah.
But just like you said, I still think this movie's really good. It's great overall. And I'm just nitpicking. I had to nitpick to find things I didn't like about this movie. Other than the fact that I generally don't like the story, but as in actually being critical of the movie, it's really well done.
Classic Fincher, man. And I'm not getting tired of it. I might at some point, but he can keep doing his thing, and I will enjoy all of it.
Yeah.
maybe not 4 or 5 films down the road, but for now, man, well, I love it.
We'll see then.
I just like Ben's performance in the movie is so good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's crazy. It's so nuanced, and it's just the tiniest details of his performance really, really construct this character so well, and it's awesome. It's really fun to watch, for the most part.
And then he did Batman.
Best part of the movie, probably.
Yeah, that's true, but still.
Well, I think I'm tapped out.
Yeah, me too. So, the topic this time is themes. So, because this movie, so it's all about, the kind of overall theme is marriage and how they exaggerated marriage and all the problems of it to this extreme extent, really to just point out the problems that are faced in marriages in reality, even though it's kind of just hyperbolic in this movie. But it just got me thinking about themes in general. So some examples I have are just The Sixth Sense has an overall theme of death, obviously. Requiem for a Dream is like drugs and drug abuse. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World is, you can kind of say video games, but you could also say like exes and baggage. So I was just wondering, what are your general thoughts of like themes in a movie, and how important is like a theme to you in a movie?
Well, I think they're like crucial. I think you can have like a light movie, like a fun blockbuster that doesn't require a lot of thinking, and those are fine. But I think in, like, I don't want to say true stories, but in real substantial stories, I think a theme is really critical. I don't know how to write one if I don't have a theme in mind. I don't know how to build a series of events that show you who characters are, show you what they're struggling with, show you overcome things in their way of what they want without there being a central theme in mind. I think it's sort of like this foundation for your story that people don't really see, unless they're really looking for it, but it is there, and it is sort of holding everything else up.
Yeah,
I think theme's super important.
So then that kind of goes into my second question. So if you were crafting a movie or any kind of story, really, would you would you start with your characters and your plot and try and go with that and then create a theme out of that? Or would you do the opposite? Would you try and find a theme first and then center characters and plot around the theme you want to convey to your audience?
I'd say it depends. I mean, for me as a writer, it's always like the things that spark a story are just like what seems interesting to me, and it could be like an interesting character, or it could be an interesting idea or setting. But I think most often it's an interesting theme. I think those are what best inspire the rest. It's like that's what has the most juice to fill into all the other spots in your story. Like a theme, I think, generates a lot of interesting ideas and moments to fill in the gaps. Whereas like characters can do the same, but I think they can only take you so far if you don't know really what that character is meant to say within the confines of your story.
Yeah, I agree. I would definitely start with themes. I just like movies when the theme is very right in your face. I don't know why, because I don't usually like things that are right in my face and obvious. But for some reason, when it comes to themes, I like when they put it right in your face, and then if they like twist it after you know what the theme's about, that's really cool. Sure. Like kind of turn it on its head, I suppose. But for some reason, when it comes to movies, I just really enjoy when the theme is ever present. But yes, when I try to craft a story, I always try and start with the theme more than anything. I think I always start with the theme. I can't think of one where I've started with anything else. It's just interesting.
Yeah, I mean, if you start it that way, it helps to inform. It doesn't have to be the way that you start, but it certainly informs the rest of the decisions. Because when you're crafting a story and you're going through the beats and you're talking about characters and what's going to happen to them, you ultimately are going to ask yourself, what does this character want? Or what does that mean for this character? What does that mean for his world? What does that mean for... You're just constantly going to be asking yourself questions, and that's where you have to be creative and come up with answers. But, I mean, I don't know how you would answer those questions without a central theme. Yeah, it's going to inform the questions that you're going to have to answer in order to write the story and be creative and come up with ideas and things. But it's like, I don't know how you do it without a theme.
Yeah. I'm not even sure if it's possible, but I guess so. Because I don't think you can have a story without a theme, but I guess it's just really how strong or weak you think it, like how important is a theme? Because obviously it's going to be there, but does it need to be ever present, or can it kind of just fall on the backside? And I guess we both agree that it should be ever present.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the more present it is, and not necessarily like, not more overt or not less subtle, but the stronger the themes are in your movie, the stronger your story is going to be. Like the stronger the characters are going to be, and the more you're going to invest or want to invest into that story. Mm-hmm. I think if you have if you have a light theme in there and it's very thin and it's just kind of strung together, then it might be a fun movie. But it might not be one that you love. It might not be one that you sort of dive deeper into because it's surface level. Mm-hmm. Themes are the key to going deeper, I guess. Right. That's kind of cheesy, but
it's true. It's most certainly.
But that's kind of the thing too. Is like some of the themes that you come across, like love conquers all, or whatever, fill in the blank. It's like they're kind of cheesy to say out loud, and that's why it's fun to sort of like Trojan horse them in through this fun and creative story, so that you can convey a cheesy idea. But just because it's cheesy doesn't mean it's not meaningful and profound and thought provoking. So stories are this great way to convey almost like cliches, things that people already know, but need to experience through a movie or a book or whatever.
Yeah. It's just really cool that we can do that we can take a core central idea and then just convey it in our own way. Mm-hmm. So what's your favorite theme? So we've kind of talked about themes before. So we've talked about like conflicts, or what would you enjoy about a theme, I suppose. So we've got like man versus nature and all of those conflict ones, but then we also just have general themes, kind of what we talked about: death, drugs, breaking up, love, all of those.
I really love like coming of age stories. I love. Mm-hmm. Well, actually, I have an article from the Script Lab. It's called 10 Central Themes in Movies. We can go through the list, and it's kind of fun. Mm-hmm. So the first one is Man versus Nature, which is an interesting one because it lists a ton of movies that aren't necessarily well received, like Armageddon and The Day After Tomorrow, The Perfect Storm, lots of movies like that.
What do you mean Armageddon's not well received?
That movie is absurd.
How dare you?
but then you got one like Jurassic Park, fantastic man versus nature movie.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, and then there's like Man versus Himself, The Godfather, Flight, movies like that. Number 3 is Loss of Innocence or Coming of Age, and I mean, it's evident in my favorite movies, The Way Back, Toy Story. Like those are like coming of age stories are just, I love those, man, because I think it's clearly, it's something obviously everyone goes through, deciding who you're going to be or what you're meant to do or who you're meant to be. Like I just like that idea a lot.
What's your favorite coming of age story? Boyhood?
Boyhood is great.
I didn't think it was
probably
your
not my favorite.
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't seen it since the first time. That's definitely got to be one we do on the podcast for sure.
Yeah, because that is an endeavor to get through. So
yeah.
But for real, what is your favorite?
I don't know. I mean, it might be The Way Back, because I think Toy Story has elements of that, but I don't think that's centrally what that story is about. But maybe it might be The Way Back. I really like that one a lot. Number 4 is Quentin Tarantino. I mean, Revenge.
Nice.
That's kind of his thing. Number 5 is Death. Death as part of life. That's like any Disney opening movie or opening scene.
Mm-hmm.
The Battle, Braveheart, 300. That's number 6. 7, Individuals versus Society. It's like Fight Club, Aaron Brockovich, Schindler's List, stuff like that. Triumph Over Adversity, The Blind Side, Slumdog Millionaire, Love Conquers All. It's like Harry Potter, Snow White, and Good versus Evil, which is almost it's similar. It's like Harry Potter still, and Lord of the Rings, and Star Wars. And it's what fascinated me about when I was going through this list and kind of what we've been talking about, the idea that a lot of themes can tend to be, they sound cheesy or cliche because we've heard them so much, but when we talk about how like these are 10 central themes that are in a lot of different movies, how is it that like we still enjoy seeing essentially the same movie that's decorated in different set pieces and characters? Why do we enjoy seeing the same story played out over and over and over again, in a sense?
Because, I mean, the thing is, it's not the same story told over and over and over again. It's all the same central ideas, and then the parts that's different is the story, you know? It's the way someone else will take the same thing we've heard so many times, but then add new things to it that you hadn't seen before and give you new ideas. Yeah. So
yeah, I think that's both the struggle and the satisfaction is seeing the same sort of a familiar story told in a new way, in a new creative way. Like that's both the struggle and the satisfaction. Totally agree. But I also thought, how interesting is it that we love stories so much, like just this people in general. It's like, it's the way that we're wired. It's literally built into our brains. That's how we remember things, in the form of stories. But we love them so much, but we are never satisfied with them. You know, I will see a million movies in my life and will still want to see 1,000,001. It's like these things that we love that don't satisfy fully, you know? Well, it's like we constantly are wanting to see more.
That's true. But you can say that about most things in life, I feel like.
Yep. It's a good point.
That's kind of off our podcast topic, but
it's kind of everything. We just... Whew. Well, yeah, we could just venture off into a whole nother road.
Yeah. Now that we've covered absolutely everything in this episode,
we're done. It's the last one, probably. Where else do we go?
Podcast is over, guys. Thanks for listening. We're done forever.
That's really fun.
Oh, man. Well, I'm about themed out.
Yeah, me too. I don't know if it's because it's 2 a.m. or because we've been going for a while. That's hilarious.
I kind of just wanted to totally riff Community right there, but, you know, I don't want to get sued either, so...
I think we're safe, man. I think we can do whatever we want.
Josh and Coleman in the morning.
Nice. Perfect. Thank you. Thanks for doing it.
Dan Harmon,
Perfect.
please don't
He
hurt a
loves
podcast.
us. He's tweeted to me like 2 or 3 times. He loves me.
Yeah, he loves you.
Did you hear that, listeners? I get tweets from Dan Harmon. So you should tweet us as well.
We're
Join that
practically
family.
famous, so.
This is getting real silly.
Yep. Probably because it's 2 in the morning, so let's
wrap it up. Next week we're talking Minority Report, since we got Jack Reacher 2 coming out. Reach No Further, or whatever it's called. I totally made that up.
Did you say
I have
reach
no idea
no
what it's called.
further? Oh my god.
Yeah. If that's not what it's called,
Nope.
that's what it should be called.
Yep, I agree. Perfect subtitle.
Minority Report. So yeah, you can check that out and get prepared for us to talk about it next week. There's that one. The mini episode's already been plugged, but we'll do it again. You can check that out on YouTube and look forward to some new ones coming out in the future. That's only on YouTube. Links in the description. If you haven't seen a movie that we're talking about, usually you can go straight to the topic. The timestamp's in the description. So if you want to go straight to a topic, you can do that in the description. And if you want to support the podcast, the best thing to do is check us out on iTunes, subscribe on YouTube, and leave us a comment, leave us a review, give us some ratings, and share it with your friends. Think of somebody who would like this weird film discussion podcast and share it with them, and that would be great. We would really appreciate it. Thanks already so much for listening. I'm losing steam here. I think that's it, man. I think that's the show.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think we got it. I think we literally covered everything, so.
The existence of life and what it means and all that jazz.
That's what we should just change our podcast name to.
That's the question for this week, guys. Tweet us, what's the meaning of life? Let's just go big.
Go big or go home, you know?
Tweet that in 140 characters. What's the meaning of life, guys?
Yeah.
Tweet at us.
It'll be a real challenge, you know. Some people say short stories are harder to write than novels, so good luck.
It's true. I work on my tweets harder than I work on my scripts.
If you just put all the effort you put into your tweets into your scripts, you know, we could probably be somewhere.
Yeah, but I'm not.
Just love tweeting.
So good. Also, I'm at Joshua Kazemi. I haven't said that yet. It's in the description, but some of you might not ever look at the description. So I'm at Joshua Kazemi.
Yeah, who
Coleman
reads
is
anymore? I'm at Cole Tailored. I hope it's in the description as well. I think it is.
It is.
All right.
It always is.
It's always
Even
there.
though you don't tweet.
I don't tweet. I'll have to get on that. I say that every week. One day, our listeners will be surprised by a tweet that they can view.
A surprise tweet, yeah. But we're nearly a dozen episodes in and you haven't. So who knows when it's going to happen.
Exactly. At this point, it'll just be
Keep you
an
on your
extreme
toes.
surprise. You know, like, oh, he's tweeting.
All right, that's the show, guys. Thanks for listening. We will see you next week.